On this episode of Andy's Autosport TV, we're going to bring bright light to the darkness. We're going to show you how to improve the looks of the front of your car with aftermarket headlights. Then we're going to install some on our project vehicles. Now, when you're on andysautosport.com and you're looking for a replacement headlight for your vehicle, what that refers to is the entire assembly. You get the housing, the lens, and the seal. All you need to do is install the headlight, use your factory bulbs, and if it calls for something besides a factory bulb, they're going to come with the headlight assembly. There are many styles of headlight assemblies on our website. We have everything from projector headlights to a halo style, also known as an angel eye. We have crystal lenses, and we also have a diamond style. Now, they also come with different housing assemblies that are either black, smoke, or chrome, and you can even get some with different LED arrangements. In addition, you sometimes have an option to choose what color light you want. For example, you can get a black housing with a blue projector or a chrome housing with a white angel eye. Some headlights on our website will be noted as one piece. What this means is the headlight assembly and the turn signal assembly are included in one piece rather than two. Now, installing a set of headlights is pretty straightforward. Most of the time, they're just plug and play. However, if you're going to get an LED style or a halo style, there may be some additional wiring that you need to do. It's very straightforward with the right tools. It's a very simple task, and we're going to show you how to hook these up. This looks a little intimidating. It's not bad. We'll show you in just a little bit when we do our installs. So another question is, are all the headlights that we sell at andysautosport.com DOT compliant? The answer, unfortunately, is no. What you need to look for DOT compliance is that it has an amber turn signal assembly. If you've got an amber turn signal assembly, you're probably not going to be hassled. Now, what DOT stands for is Department of Transportation. They're basically the entity that is designed to make sure that vehicles operate in a safe manner on the public highways. Now we're going to do some installs on some of our Andy's Autosport project vehicles. Now, we've got a barrel full of Spider headlights, and they have a wide range of styles to choose from and an excellent reputation to go along with it. So when it came time to choosing what headlights we were going to upgrade our project vehicles with, Spider was an easy choice. Okay, so earlier we were talking about the headlight assemblies being noted as one piece. That's exactly the case with our Ford F-250. This is the assembly we're going to take off, a two-piece assembly where the marker light and the headlight assembly are actually different, and we're going to replace that with our single headlight assembly from Spider. Okay, so first we're going to take the two screws out below our turn signal assembly, and they are down here. Sometimes they're a little hard to get to. Now there's a couple of clips on the top that are kind of a pain, but this will hold the top assembly in. So we're going to pull these out, and then we'll have our entire assembly out in our hands. Okay, now we're just going to pop this assembly out. Now there's some bulbs that are connected to the back of this. These usually have little clips in the side. Sometimes can be a little difficult, especially if the lights haven't been out in a while. But in order to do this, all we're going to do is just twist our light assemblies, and they'll pop right out of place. I have another clip down below. Now, this is important. There's, again, anytime you do jobs like this is a finesse thing. So don't force anything. If things aren't coming out easily, there's probably something still connected. In this case, we have another clip. Okay, now that we've got our headlight assembly out, we're just going to take the factory bulb assembly out. Now, this is the old one. We're going to discard that. Our new assembly has everything sealed inside of it, so there is no bulb to put here. The only thing we have to worry about is down here where we put our turn signal in. Okay? So what we're going to do with this, now, we can use the factory bulb that came in the truck. The problem is it's clear, and of course our turn signal down here is clear. So what we've done is we've gone down and we've chosen to do this. We've chosen to put the amber bulb in here, and that's an option if you want to go and make sure that you stay DOT compliant. Now, our truck no longer uses this style of bulb, so we're just going to take this assembly out just by unclipping it from the factory harness. Okay, and that's a spare bulb. It's a good bulb, so we're just going to set it on our workbench. Our new assembly we won't have to worry about that. Now, one of the things about our new assembly, it has LEDs on the side, and of course it has the halos. So we're going to have to do a little bit of wiring with that. Now, our new assembly no longer uses this side marker light. It just has reflectors here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to clip this end off, and we're going to use our NSPA connectors to attach all of our wires for our LEDs and for our halos into our marker lights. Okay, so before you install an accessory in your car, it's important to know how a 12-volt car system works. It is a closed system, so basically you have to complete the circuit. To complete a circuit in a 12-volt DC system, you have to have a 12-volt source and a ground. Now, a battery, your car battery, basically has completed that circuit inside the battery. You can touch your negative side of your test light to the negative side, and as you can hear and see, we have completed the circuit. So when you hear me refer to we need to find a hot source or a positive side, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the positive side of the battery. Now there's wires that run throughout the car, throughout the chassis, that you can pick those up through the fuse block, things like that. The ground, the way the ground works, the battery actually grounds to the chassis. So any place that you can touch an exposed bolt that doesn't have paint over it, you're going to complete that circuit on the ground. So I'm going to show you an example of that. I've got my ground wire connected to my tray here. This is exactly the way it works on your car. So now, since this is connected here, I can complete this circuit anywhere. I'm going to take and put my ground source on this bolt right here, touch to the positive source, and now I have completed that circuit as well. That's exactly the same way it works in your car. So you can find a ground at the back of your car, at the front of your car, any place that there's an exposed bolt, you can grab your ground from there. Okay, since we're really only concerned about finding out which one of these wires is the positive wire, you can just simply take your ground, put it on the bumper or anything that's grounded, and then touch both wires until you find out which one's hot. In this case, our brown one is going to be our hot wire. Okay, now we're going to strip our wires back a little bit. We've got our strip crimp tool here from NSPA. You can buy this at andysautosport.com. Now we're going to take our heat shrink connectors, and we're going to put these on our wires. We're going to put them in our crimp tool. Make sure we've got it in the right spot. Push the wire all the way up in there and crimp it down. Okay, now we're going to take this little piece of plastic off since we don't need it anymore, because this is what used to hold the old bulb into the factory assembly. So we're going to discard that. Our new assembly has harness, just plugs right directly into the factory harness. Now Spyder does a really good job about sending instructions with this. So we know that the black is the ground on the LED side and the white is the hot, and of course black and red are also the same here. So we're going to take all of our black wires, we're going to tie them together. We're going to put those wires here, crimp it down good and tight. We've got a good solid connection. Then we're going to do the exact same thing with the red wires and the white wire. We're going to twist all those together, put those in our connector as well. Got a good solid crimp. Now all of our lights are in and assembled and ready to go. Now before we do final assembly on everything, I always like to make sure that everything is working. So just going to kind of set this in place a little bit and then go in and make sure, turn my lights on, make sure that everything is working, the halos, before I go ahead and use my heat shrink or anything like that. Okay, now that we know that we have good connectivity and everything, we're going to go ahead and do our heat shrink on our NSPA connectors. Start from the center of the barrel and work your way out. So you're going to give that a couple minutes to cool down. Then you're going to go ahead and put your headlight assembly in. Now we'll put our two clips back on the top of our headlights. Reinstall our screws. Now on to our Integra. Now, cars like the Integra and some of the Hondas, and there are many cars out there that you're going to actually need to remove the bumper cover in order to replace your headlights. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details on the Integra because every car is going to be different. I will tell you this. As you're taking the bumper cover off, don't force anything. This is plastic, and you can break clips off and things like that. So just take your time, and you won't have any problems. Okay, now that we've got our bumper cover off, we're going to replace our factory OEM headlights with these halo projector lights from Okay, the next step is going to be removing the bulbs from our factory lenses. Now, We're going to reuse one of these bulbs, and here's an important safety tip. Whenever you're taking the bulbs out, make sure you don't touch the actual bulb assembly itself with your fingers. The oils from your hands can actually create a hot spot, and that bulb will fail prematurely. So if you do happen to touch the bulb while you're taking it out, just clean it off with rubbing alcohol and a good clean cloth, and that'll take care of it. Now, this is the actual socket right here. This is actually the bulb that this wire is connected to. It's real simple to take out. You just simply rotate it, and then it slips out. Now we're going to reuse this one. So it's real important not to touch that if you can avoid it. Now this bulb here on this particular assembly, now the Spider comes with this one pre-installed, so we're just going to take this one out. Okay, now that we're getting ready to install our projector headlights, now these have the halos inside, so there's going to be some wiring that you're going to need to do as well. This is not a big deal. It's very simple. We're going to hook it into the parking lights. One of the things that we're going to do as we move forward, though, we're going to go ahead and install our bulb back in our assembly now, and that's going to make it a lot easier when we put it back in. Then all we have to do is simply clip the wire in place, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're actually going to hook up our halos, and how we're going to do that is we're actually going to splice into our parking lamp wires. Now we're going to need to find out which one is our hot and our ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn on our parking light. Then we're going to take either a multimeter or a test light. Now if you're using a test light, you need to make sure you know where the ground is. Now in our instance, we know that our ground is the black wire on this. So we're going to go ahead and ground our multimeter, and then we're going to probe through these wires to find out which one has 12 volts going to it. And there it is. Ours is our red wire. So we're going to go ahead and splice into our red wire for our hot side and the black wire for the ground in order to make our halos operate when the parking lights come on. Now what we've done here is we've actually pulled our wires out of our split loom. Now in our case there were two sets of wires. There's one for the turn signal bulb, and then there's one for our parking lights. So make sure you're cutting the right wires when you do this. We know that our red and our black wires are the ones that we want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give myself plenty of room. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these at the same spot. Now we're going to strip these wires back about 5/8 of an inch. We're going to twist the wires together, and we're going to use our butt connector. Now, this butt connector is from National Standard Parts. Now, the cool thing, and I'll show you in just a second, this has heat shrink tubing built in. It also has a sealer on there. So once we have our wire stripped, we're going to go ahead and put that connector in there. We're going to use our crimp tool. And now we've got a couple of great connections right there, nice and solid. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with our halo wires. Now, there comes with two sets of halo wires. The reason is because the high beams and the low beams both have halos in them. So we're going to connect them together. That's what we want. You can do different things if you want. You can have some connected to turn signals. If you want to do something fancy, you can do that. Of course, we're just going to connect ours up directly. Going to put our wires in there. Thing with the red. Now the Spider lights come pre-soldered, which is really kind of cool. So we're going to twist those together, put those in our connector. So now we're going to go ahead and finish up the process by doing our heat shrink. Now these connectors are really cool. As I said, they're from National Standard Parts. You can buy them here at andysautosport.com. You can check out the link below and order those. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to go ahead and heat shrink these. This is the heat shrink. It's going to shrink down, and it has a sealer in there as well that makes a good watertight connection. So we're using a little torch. All right, now we've got a good solid connection. We're going to go ahead and put our bumper cover back on and put our car back together. Now onto our Honda Civic. Now we're going to replace our factory housings, which are yellowed and pretty worn out, to these blackened ones from Spider. Now what we've done is we've already started by removing our bumper cover, and then we have a couple of bolts that we need to remove from behind here to remove this. Now one of the things about this, we get a lot of questions about this. This vehicle actually already has an HID conversion. Now, a lot of people are worried because they think the HID puts out a lot more heat, and it actually does, but just for a few seconds when it first warms up. So there's not really a problem when you do an HID conversion. These headlights from Spyder are definitely able to withstand that extra temperature. Okay, now on some vehicles, now our Integra didn't have this issue, but on this Honda Civic it does. This actual bracket right here actually bolts to the housing before it goes back on. You can see that there's a bolt right here. Now this metal piece actually comes off, it'll bolt onto our new housing, and then we'll bolt it back onto our Honda Civic. Now, as I said, our Project Civic already had the HID conversion. Now, these HID lights are just like the other type of bulb where you do not want to touch it, especially with the HIDs. You don't want to touch it. You want to have as little contact around the outside edges as possible as you're putting this in there. And with an HID, it only goes in one way, and it's very important. It has a little shielding on there to make sure that the actual focus of the bulb is going to the right spot. So make sure you put those in there properly. Then you just put the clamp down, and you're ready to install your headlight. Okay, now on most of the headlights that you're going to replace, they're going to have a grommet like this that actually will go back over here, and what that does, it keeps moisture out of the back of the lens housing, and you definitely want to put those back on. Sometimes they're a little bit of a pain, but it's definitely worth putting it on there, and it'll save you having to replace those bulbs because water hit it. Finally, we're going to improve the looks on our Mini Cooper with these black halo headlights from Spyder. Okay, on our Project Mini Cooper, this is a pretty straightforward install. The actual headlights are actually bolted to the hood. So there's 3 bolts that come off, but it also has headlight washers. So you have to disconnect the water source to the back of the headlight. Very simple. Okay, now it turns out our ballast is in the way on removing this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to loosen up the 2 torque screws, and then our ballast will flip out of our way. All right, and there we have our old assembly. Now we're going to have to, now Spyder's done a really great job. They actually have made a provision for the headlights, for the washers for the headlights. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this assembly off and install it onto our new Spyder headlight, and then reinstall it in our Mini Cooper. All right, now we're going to put our headlight assembly back in. Okay, now we're going to reattach our hose for our washers. Connect our harness, which connects directly to it. So as you can see, installing the headlights is a pretty straightforward job with the right tools. Popular brands we carry are Spec-D, Depot, also known as Max Zone. We hope we've enlightened you today, and we'll see you on another episode of Andy's Autosport TV.